The firefighter tells the story of Chil Wong, a guy who had no idea what he wanted from life. My 9 wives told me not to be afraid, until one day, by chance, he saves someone and discovers something that changes everything. He wants to become a firefighter. From that moment on, he dives headfirst into this world full of action, danger, and courage. But being a firefighter in South Korea in the 2000s is no easy task. There's a lack of equipment, lack of support, and an abundance of risk. Even so, Chil Wong doesn't give up. He trains, pushes himself, and goes to the limit, until a major event puts everything on the line and could change the history of firefighting in the country. The story starts with things literally on fire. There's a house in flames. Some firefighters are arriving with a triumphant entrance. Among them is a handsome guy who, underneath his mask, is extremely tense. As he enters the house, embraced by the flames, he starts asking a few things from God. First, he asks for strength to save a life, and permission to be a hero in a child's eyes. As he makes his way through the property, he hopes the frightened old man is okay. When he finds the body, he wishes to fulfill his duty and give his very best. Then he leaves the house with the woman in his arms, asking for one final thing: to protect everyone there. The scene shifts. Now things are calmer. There are a few soldiers on site. 2 of them are sneaking away from duty while others remain. One of them complains about the number of missions and the heat. As he removes his helmet, he comments that the job is just like that. Referring to the soldier in front of him, he says he thought he had already been discharged. The man replies sarcastically, while the other says it's too hot to get angry. He asks what the other plans to do after graduating, but Chil Wong still doesn't know. The military really is a different place. People from all over gathered together, and all of them with the same dream. In society, people talk to each other like they need approval for what they're going to do afterward. One wants to be a physical therapist, another dreams of becoming a professional kendo player. One thing he realized is that there are many jobs he'd never even heard of, and even with endless options, he has no idea what he wants to do. Little by little, anxiety begins to take over him. Then, without further delay, the guy in front says he's going to be a firefighter. They talk about how challenging the profession is, and it turns out Yang Tae was an interesting guy. Chil Wong met him at the base. He was terrible at soccer, but always smiling. That was one of the things he admired about him. Now it's nighttime. Yang Tae and another man are bringing supplies to keep the fire going. The guy asks why he wants to be a firefighter if he's going to face all kinds of dangers like fire. Wouldn't he be afraid to go into a burning building? Yang Tae notices that the guy thinks he's scared and laughs, because yeah, it can really be scary. Reflecting a bit, he shares that he was always stronger than the other kids at school. His strength even scared some of them. He used to get excited about that, and one classmate nearly bit the dust once. He always thought about how he could use that strength to help people. He remembered the time he saved a worker from becoming fridge stuffing. That was when he felt like he had a purpose, a mission to fulfill in this world. Realizing that even fire can be useful, even though it can burn, the two leave with some teasing and a lot of laughter as the fire crackles alone in the background. A new day, the moment when Yang Tae is finally saying goodbye and leaving the military. He goes out with swagger and style, ready to join society and become a firefighter. 2 years fly by, and now we see a warehouse. A few men are working on the conveyor belt, and it's extremely hot. An old man is talking to Chil Wong, asking for help with something. After finishing his military service, he enrolled in college and is now almost graduating. He decided to take a part-time job during the break and notice how hard the guys there work. He receives many compliments on his work while helping his boss, who looks pregnant. They continue their casual conversation until he hears a loud thud and turns around. Keita is lying on the floor, making a face like a baby. But for Chil Wong, who rushed to help him, it made him realize something that had been forgotten. A mannequin is being slapped in the face, and 2 guys are having fun with it. Someone comments that nobody seems to be taking the training seriously. Then he starts explaining how to tell when someone who's really in trouble shows up. Meanwhile, a soldier is paying close attention to every step. He asks To Wong if he'll really need this one day. The guy responds that he can't say for sure, but if needed, his skills could help. Back at the warehouse, the chubby man is still on the ground, and the workers stop what they're doing. Chil Wong seems to know what to do. He asks them to call an ambulance. His full attention goes to the man lying down, following the steps he learned earlier. The man is already starting to turn purple. Chil Wong continues trying, determined to save his boss. Exhaustion begins to weigh on him, but he keeps going, not wanting to see the man's life slip away. He feels like he's on fire, with the weight of that life in his hands. Then someone stops him. It's the emergency team, taking over while thanking him for his effort. His boss is already being taken away on a stretcher as he begins to steady his breathing. At the hospital, a half-bald man tells him the chubby guy is doing fine. He listens while receiving praise for how he acted during the emergency. Then the man places an envelope in front of him as a thank you for what he did. After all, Chil Wong didn't just save Mr. Kita, he saved himself too. The young man returned home without thinking too much about it. But as soon as he got to his studio apartment, he was thinking about one person, his old friend Yongta. The scene changes, and an excited voice calls out for Chil-won. Someone rushes toward him. Very strong arms lift him up, scaring the guy and definitely cracking a rib or two. After the emotional hug, he comments how his friend's strength hasn't changed at all. Yongtae agrees with a smile. Moments later, some meat is already grilling at a restaurant. Even though they hadn't seen each other for a long time, it was like nothing had changed. Yong Tae-hyung became a firefighter, just like he said he would 3 years ago. Chil-won asks if it's an easy job to handle. His friend, with his mouth full, replies that it is. The kids love it when he shows up. A small smile forms on his face, and he suggests it might not be so scary anymore to enter a burning building. After so long, he needs to know how his friend really feels, and he says it's actually way scarier than he thought. It catches the other by surprise. He explains how firefighters work and how the fear of fire never truly goes away. Even though being in the middle of the flames is terrifying, he's able to keep moving forward. Chil-won listens carefully to every word his friend says. Later that night, they are saying goodbye. Yongtae felt proud of the other man's decision to become a firefighter. The sun is just beginning to rise, but Chil-won is already awake studying. Soon he's out running, determined to go talk to Mr. Kita. There's something in his heart, and that feeling is guiding him now. Right now, the protagonist is giving it his all doing pull-ups on the bar. When he told his parents, they were in shock for a while, as if they had seen a ghost. For the first time, he wanted to do something on his own, outside the options his parents wanted. Even with the initial scare, they supported their son, though they thought it was pretty dangerous. Now he's being trained by his friend, so he won't need to attend a firefighter academy. Time is passing quickly, and his friend isn't going easy on him at all. He feels like he's on the right path in a way he's never felt before in his life. Finally, the day arrives. Chil-won and his parents are in front of the computer. His mother is nervous, praying for him, and his father just wants to see the result. He opens the results while everyone holds their breath, and then he sees it. Accepted is written on the screen, and they all shout with joy. They celebrate with hugs. Chil-won is truly happy. Cut to the fire station. Yongtae is on the phone. He congratulates his friend on his accomplishment and mentions he'll be getting a call soon. He briefly explains what will happen next and then hangs up. His happiness is genuine. He's glad to see his friend starting his journey as a firefighter. Another guy asks if the person on the phone was the guy Yongtae had been helping. He starts talking about how quickly Chil-won passed, and he asks if he could be useful at that station, but his friend replies that he might not stand out. There's already a top-tier leader there, ranked first in rescues for 3 years. The older man cracks a joke, making the dark-haired guy laugh. Then he says to let him know when Chil-won starts working so he can try to get him on their team. Yongtae fakes surprise, as if he hadn't been trying to ask that for months. He promises the other firefighter that he'll train the guy when he arrives. The scene shifts, and Chil-won is staring at the firefighter training center. He's feeling a mix of emotions as he builds up the courage to go in. He encourages himself with determination. Now he's dressed like a carrot while shouting why he chose to become a firefighter. The old instructor, who must be a little crazy, tells him to yell even louder. All of his classmates are peculiar. Some look like monsters, they're so odd. Chil-won dedicates himself to the classes to learn everything he needs to know. The poor guy is woken up at sunrise for training. He's lost track of how many days have gone by. Then comes the day to train rappelling down a tall building using ropes. The instructor explains some situations when it might be used, like approaching without being seen. He reflects on that. With a small time skip, now we see a firefighter speaking through a megaphone. Up high, the man takes a sip of his water and yells back. Clearly upset, he shouts that he was betrayed by his wife and wants to ascend to the heavens. The firefighter asks Yongtae if he's ready, and he confirms, already in position. They comment on how terrible the man's situation is and decide to start the operation. He's ready to begin the descent. The command is given, and he starts descending while the man keeps yelling. We can tell he had broken some things at home and plans to burn the apartment down. A time skip takes us back to Chil-won at the firefighter academy. He's trembling while following the instructor's commands, memorizing every word as a valuable lesson. We return to Yongtae descending the building. He gets ready, gives a strong push, and his teammates are holding the rope as he drops. He descends quickly, being watched by the drunk man on the balcony who's caught by surprise. He practically hugs the guy with his legs to stop him from making sudden movements. Happy that he caught him, he yells an apology to the drunk man, as if he weren't the one in the wrong. Again, we're with Chil-won, finishing his rope test and reaching the ground. He's met with applause from his classmates and a sincere compliment from his superior. After removing his gear, he returns to the spot as the instructor keeps talking. Then he's called. They say Chil-won has the qualifications for a rescue team. We cut to the rescue. The apartment door is being opened. The man is still shouting when the firefighters reach the place where he is. Yang-ta tries to keep a conversation going, but the guy just wants to leave. The federal police take over now, escorting the man and commenting on the situation. Yang-tae is praised for his work when he and his colleague noticed the smell of gasoline. The man had tried to set the place on fire. He even left the stove on, but he had a teammate turn it off, and thankfully, nothing bad happened. The firefighters expressed their relief that there wasn't a fire. The dark-haired one grabs the gas can, saying he'll do anything to prevent fires from happening. He's then called soft-hearted, and the team leader remarks that with them, that won't happen. Returning to the firefighter academy, Chil-won is carrying a 20-kilogram piece of equipment. It's hard to wear, heavy, and suffocating. Things only get worse since they're going uphill. Some people are struggling and falling behind. He notices a classmate stopping. He approaches to offer her help, but she gives him a sharp response, even though he was just trying to help, and goes back to climbing the hill. Not understanding why she was angry, he goes back to his workout. After they reach the top, the firefighters are resting and chatting. The instructor shows up and explains that Korea's terrain is full of mountains. They need to be prepared for that. Chil-won asks if the roads in the mountains are good for driving. Then why would they be training on such difficult ground while carrying equipment? The instructor listens carefully and answers his question, explaining the reason. In an emergency, the city roads might become unusable. That's why the fastest way to get there is by running with the gear. The firefighters are ready to contain the fire in the house. The leader gives the order, and they move toward the burning house. They move fast, oxygen tanks strapped to their backs. One of the firefighters is moving forward, clearing a path through the house. Two others rescued a man, keeping him on oxygen while taking him outside. The leader is informed that the man is safe. Yang-tae asks if they should pull the rescue team out of the house, but he doesn't allow it. The fire hasn't reached its peak yet. If they'd arrived earlier, there wouldn't have been enough time. The rescue team is ready again now to put out the fire. They go in and begin spraying water to contain the flames, even though they're part of the rescue unit. Chil-won is learning exactly this at the academy. In an emergency, they might take on different roles, so they must know how to use other equipment too, so that they are always ready to protect people's safety. Chil-won is sprawled on the ground, remembering how exhausting the day was. He thinks of Yang-tae and recalls his superior's words. He also remembers that all the guys in his class were part of the rescue unit. The guys in front of him are changing clothes, and he admires their toned bodies. With excessive formality, he asks his colleagues how they joined the team. He wanted to know why they joined the rescue unit, and they answered as if that were obvious. After all, the best part of being a firefighter is the rescue, said one of the guys. Because it's something not everyone can do, it's kind of appealing to him. Chil-won was surprised when he mentioned the special forces. Since it's so dangerous, there are always people missing in that area, and there are many ways to get in. By passing a public recruitment exam, the other guy explains as an example. But of course, it would still require the leader's supervision, they add. A spark of hope runs through Chil-won. Joining the rescue team isn't impossible. His colleagues encourage him, but he still doesn't know exactly how he's going to make it there. Chil-won decided to call his good old friend Yang-tae. He's surprised by what he just heard on the other end of the line. Yang-tae says he already talked to the leader about putting them on the same rescue team. Chil-won explodes at him, saying he doesn't even know if he's qualified to be there. His friend tries to calm him down, saying he always had a natural talent for it. He promised to stay by his side, but Chil-won still looks like he saw a ghost. The call ends, and Chil-won is still processing everything. He's going to be on the rescue team and feels dazed by the idea of such a change. The scene shifts to the academy. It's time to pump some iron again. His mind is focused and determined to build some muscle, using his own colleagues as inspiration. Even the others notice how he's pushing himself harder now. The exercise is good for him. It helps calm his mind, until he sees a woman lifting weights in an arm workout. He recognizes her as the woman who was at the training the other day, the one who rudely rejected the poor guy's help. She really trains hard, Chil-won noticed. The woman catches him staring and bluntly asks if he wants to fly to the skies. The guy gets nervous and quickly shakes his head no. The others who saw it quickly warn him about the danger of messing with her. Ji-hai became a firefighter after being a nurse and is known for her temper. Chil-won tenses up, hoping never to get involved with that scary figure. The next day, shouting can already be heard from afar. Ji-hai is fighting with another female firefighter. She doesn't try to be kind with her words, not even for a second. Another firefighter on site calls her attention, saying she needs to chill out. But of course, she gets even more irritated and throws a helmet at her colleague. She yells even louder at both of them. Her head could catch fire at this point, and she gets scolded for throwing the helmet. She asks to switch groups and train with other firefighters, even if they're men, almost demanding it. The leader is left speechless by the request, and behind him, Chil-won tenses up again. Now they're working as a team, side by side. Chil-won can't stop trembling in her presence. The woman remains as gentle as ever, warning him to do the job right. With firmness, she orders the water jet to be released. The hose thrashes wildly as the water flows through it. The woman and another firefighter are focused, hitting the target. Among the few women at the academy, Ji-hai is the one most driven by rage. Chil-won remembers how he felt when he heard he'd be working with her. The other women are afraid of her, and he can't believe they picked him. The instructor explains that they worked well together before, and that he wants him to do it again. Of course, he's also scared of her. Some time later, smoke training begins, and they can't see anything. For Chil-won, the fire in the training feels so real. The simulation scared him a little. They had to do most of the training together, as the instructor requested. He's only really enduring it because he's getting support with his certification. Because of her bravery, he imagines she'll do fine on her own, but she's trembling a lot. She must be a bit scared too. Training ends, and the firefighters are praised for their performance. Ji-hai is visibly very tired, and Chil-won notices it. At another moment, training remains intense. Dragging victims is difficult. The woman is already moving the 70-kilogram dummy across the floor. After a great effort, she stops and collapses hard to the ground. She watches while still recovering as a firefighter walks past her. Then Chil-won appears beside her, asking her not to overdo it. She shouldn't let anxiety mess up her rhythm, but the blonde glares at him furiously, thinking he's doubting her ability. The poor guy now has to defend himself again. He gives a good explanation on how to carry the body, then orders her to go back to dragging the heavy dummy. Soon she resumes the drill while two classmates comment about the pair. They don't seem to like her very much. They kept training for a while after that. At first he only did it because the trainer told him to, but he started noticing how hard she tries in every session. After a time skip, the two are at the academy, and he offers her some coffee. She complains that the coffee is hot instead of iced, as he expected. On the way out, he tries to make small talk as they leave. He questions her rudeness toward people, saying she could be a little nicer. He keeps asking if she gets along with others in her department, and as usual, she's not kind. She tries to kick him out of irritation, which he dodges. As they climb the stairs, he tells her to take a break today. He also says he won't be working with her anymore after tomorrow. They've trained together for 2 months. Suddenly, she stops and calls out to him. She brings up the question he asked her earlier. She reveals that she gets angry to hide when she's nervous in certain situations. Almost anything can trigger it, so she acts rude and angry so no one notices. She developed that so she wouldn't be underestimated, and his response is to say she's like a chihuahua. Ji-hai kindly invites him to revisit heaven, but then she reveals that when she's with him, she no longer feels nervous to the point where she'd like to have him as a team partner. She thanks him formally for putting up with her all this time. He smiles and returns the handshake. The next day, the firefighters are taking a professional physical capacity test. The instructor is supporting them through it. Chil-won finishes exhausted, ringing the bell to end the test. His classmates praise him while the poor man collapses to the ground, completely spent. They're leaving the area when one teammate jokes about not having to deal with the angry blonde anymore. Graduation is approaching, and all Chil-won can do is give his best. He hears the instructor up above announcing a new record achieved by a female trainee. Ji-hai is celebrating the achievement, excited. Graduation day has arrived, and everyone is being congratulated. A man is giving a speech while the firefighters listen attentively. The director expresses his pride in them through his words. The speech ends, hats fly into the air, and everyone celebrates happily. Chil-won and Ji-hai congratulate each other. She says he can reach out if he remembers. He encourages her to do her best in her department. Some guys are watching them and giggling. Ji-hai is finally laughing a little. Now graduated, Chil-won stands before the fire station as a real firefighter. He ends up introducing himself in a very formal way, but the other guy says it's not necessary. The man points him to his station and tells him to wait there. But when Chil-won sees the state of the room, he's shocked. The place is really dirty, clothes everywhere, grime on the floor, worse than the academy. He gets slightly upset, thinking that's where he's going to live. In the fire truck, Yong-tae is happily humming a song. His teammate even jokes that maybe he has a date or something, judging by his mood. But he's actually excited because Chil-won is joining their team. They even mention that another guy there will no longer be the youngest. He wasn't a fan of that role and had been waiting a long time for this. Someone is curious to meet the new firefighter. Before they even finish opening the door, Chil-won is already yelling. The guy loudly introduces himself to everyone in the room. And once again, the noise is annoying, but Yong-tae is so cheerful that he doesn't even care. He welcomes him excitedly, shaking his friend back and forth. Chil-won gets dizzy, and someone calls out the darker-skinned guy for it. A man comments that he heard they served together in the army, and that's why he put him on the team. The team leader puts pressure on the newcomer, but Yong-tae says he'll make sure he does well, otherwise he'll beat him until he does. Some of his colleagues are surprised. One of the firefighters, annoyed, asks them not to salute for no reason. It's too noisy. Chil-won gets nervous about that, but his friend reassures him. The group is planning something to welcome the newcomer, but unfortunately, the emergency alarm goes off and they have a job to do. One guy starts complaining already, while Chil-won watches curiously. The leader gives the command and they all move out while the newbie seems a bit lost. He reminds him that he has to go too. Now he's part of the firefighter rescue team. They arrive at the scene, and the leader is already taking command again. Chil-won is ordered not to act alone and only to do what he's told. Behind him, Hyo-jong comments that he doesn't like that he got in because of his connection with Yong-ta. With a sinister look, he tells the other that he'll be watching him. Chil-won shakes to his core, feeling intimidated. In the scene, a little girl is tangled in the staircase railing, crying and screaming. The firefighters talk to her, trying to find her parents. Chil-won doesn't know what to do, since they never covered anything like this at the academy. Yong-ta notices and teases his friend because he knows they didn't teach that there. With a smile on his face, he tells his friend to watch carefully what the veterans are going to do. One of them is already with the girl, talking to her and calming her down. The leader determines the tool they'll need to get her unstuck. Everything is ready for action. The cutter starts slicing through the railing, and the girl is scared by it. Hyo-jong keeps her calm, being sweet with her, very different from how he treated the new guy. Another firefighter is asking a couple to move away from the scene. Chil-won is impressed with how they handled the challenge. He feels motivated seeing everyone helping. A taxi has just dropped off a passenger. The person steps out in front of the fire station. Ji-hai is there, ready to begin, unaware of what the universe has prepared. After they freed the scared little girl from the railing, someone calls out to her. She runs toward her father, who was worried about her. The firefighter explains the situation and that the girl wasn't hurt. Relieved, the father thanks the firefighters. The daughter is still a bit shaken, but he, being a present and caring dad, calms her down. Chil-won is happy that everything ended well, until a man starts yelling from the staircase. Totally overdramatic, the guy screams that the staircase has been destroyed. He needs to rent the place out and immediately asks who's going to pay for the repair. The leader gives the order for the others to leave. He'll deal with the man. Chil-won is curious about the guy, but he thinks it'll be fine. His boss does something he didn't expect. He bows to the man. He asks why he's doing that, and Yong-tae tells him to be quiet. If he tries to say anything, it might make things worse for the leader. Even though firefighters protect people's safety like true heroes, they still get complaints. Sometimes someone gets upset about their work, like the grumpy guy. Back in the truck, the leader congratulates everyone. Nobody says anything back. Maybe a cat got their tongues. These are workers doing their jobs who have to be careful about complaints. Next to Chil-won, his colleague asks if he was paying attention earlier. Chil-won reflects on everything he saw the team do. He shows that he learned the basics of teamwork and how to trust his teammates. The grumpy Hyo-jong already ruins the mood, saying that Chil-won has to work hard to earn the team's trust. The poor guy, who just arrived and hasn't had the chance to show his capabilities, can only agree. Hyo-jong keeps talking about mental training but gets interrupted. The others, dressed like carrots, are laughing and mocking him. They ask him not to be so hard on the guy just because he's new. They arrive at the base and get off the truck to enter the building. Chil-won is a bit flushed when Yong-tae comes to talk to him. The dark-haired guy says the other one has always been like that. Chil-won wants to learn from him. He supports him but reminds him that the newbie can't learn everything just from him. Chil-won notices that Yong-tae has a lot of confidence in Hyo-jong. Someone comes up to the leader, commenting that he really had a tough job. It's Sohee from the rescue team. She came to introduce a newcomer, and then she introduces the blonde Ji-hai's son, whom we already know. Chil-won and she are equally surprised to see each other. The leader notices and assumes they're from the same academy, which could be nice, having a colleague around. Chil-won says it's good to see her, and that now they'll be seeing each other more than expected. Well, soon they have to say goodbye to the happy reunion. For him, it was a stroke of luck to have someone other than Yong-tae there. Now we see that it's nighttime. Life at the fire station is different from what Chil-won imagined. They have 2 shifts. They work one full day for 24 hours and have the next day off. But it doesn't make sense to him to stay up all night every other day. His colleague arrives and says he can take over so Chil-won can get some rest. He leaves, and Chil-won manages to sleep from 10 at night until 5 in the morning. He looks like a panda with those dark circles under his eyes. They say there are hardly any nights without calls. And sure enough, they were called to a rather unusual fire. A man who seems drunk says it was a woman. She set his heart on fire. The firefighter can't believe it and even mocks the poor lovesick guy. To Chil-won, he didn't know most of the calls would be so ridiculous. Another call involved searching a sewer for a lost item, and of course, prank calls making them look like fools. The team was being called constantly, and Chil-won seemed to be going crazy. One more day, he was exhausted, waiting for the sun to rise so he could change shifts and go to sleep. That's when Ji-hai appears beside him, drinking something. He didn't even see her arrive. He asks how her first shift went, and she says she's starting to feel overwhelmed. With a rather sinister face, she asks if this firefighter life is what he expected. He, well, is left speechless. Things really aren't what he expected, honestly. But then he remembers the time they saved the little girl and smiles. He finally found what he was looking for, right there at the station, helping people. Ji-hai looks at him thoughtfully and says it's good to hear that. We see that same guy from the station again, sniffing the delicious smell of grilled meat. Chil-won and Ji-hai are side by side. They and the rest of the team are there to celebrate the two's first 24-hour shift. She's wondering if it's really okay to be celebrating at a soup restaurant. Chil-won is called and turns attentively. The leader comments on how he's still adjusting to the job. Everyone there had a hard time at first, but with each other's support it gets easier. Then he tells him to eat properly and give it his best. Chil-won feels encouraged by the support. The little blonde gets tense when they mention the next stop is karaoke so they can sing. Right after his first shift, he welcomed the new day by singing. Beside those he'll be spending a lot of time with, everyone is in high spirits. Even after just one day, he realized that being a firefighter won't be easy at all. Chil-won is surprised when they hand the microphone to him, but if he's with the team, he can face anything. Even a bit embarrassed, he steps up and picks a song. He gets ready and starts singing. His teammates are quite surprised. Even Soe from the rescue team admits he sings well. She asks Ji-hai if she knew about this, but she doesn't seem to hear. She's staring, mesmerized, as Chil-won sings, so he just smiles subtly from the side. Another day, at an apartment, Young-tae is arriving home and greeting his elderly mother, with Chil-won right behind him. She greets her son's friend and offers him the guest room. He was staying at Young-tae's house for a while, receiving his support. His shift is about to begin, and he wants to start being useful as a professional. On the next day's shift, Young-tae is teaching Chil-won how to categorize fire types. He's still finding it odd that they haven't had any calls that day, so he decides to ask the guy if that's normal. Young-tae quickly covers his mouth on impulse. Chil-won has no idea what he said wrong. Young-tae explains that when things are that calm, just talking about it attracts calls like magic. Chil-won becomes cautious and decides to be more careful from now on. And sure enough, the firefighters receive an emergency call. The leader explains what happened. A car accident and an ambulance is also on the way. Chil-won is finishing putting on his helmet when he's called. The man tells him not to try anything on his own and to only act after receiving orders. The accident was serious. The car flipped, and another firefighter team is already there. So he tries to talk to the driver through the broken car window. She asks Ji-hai to grab a turtleneck to put on the man. Then she turns around, surprised by what she sees. It's the rescue team. They're arriving like in one of those slow-motion movie scenes. The leader notices the door won't open and gives a command to Young-tae. A specific tool is fired up to force the door open. Chil-won watches his bro in admiration as he works, always paying close attention. The firefighters are already pulling the man's body out of the car. Hyo-jong and Young-tae are ordered to place the man on the stretcher and take him to Soe. A bland blonde guy with no empathy starts complaining about how long it took to rescue the man. One of the firefighters tries to explain, but the guy keeps being rude. Chil-won surveys the situation nearby. Young-tae with the civilian, the leader by the truck. He thinks for a moment and decides to help Hyo-jong carry the man's body. He kneels down to grab the man by the feet. The other even tries to call out to him. But then Chil-won freezes. He realizes he's done something wrong. His face twists into a horrified expression, like someone who just saw something truly awful. The ambulance is already on the scene, and the man is safely secured on the stretcher. Chil-won stands there watching them take him away. Further off, Soe tells Ji-hai that the guy might be in trouble. Out of the corner of his eye, he sees Hyo-jong taking off his helmet. Looks like someone is angry at Chil-won. When they return to the base, Hyo-jong wastes no time calling him out. He's giving our protagonist a scolding. He's really upset that Chil-won took initiative and acted on his own. All the younger one can do is apologize. Two colleagues watch the scene in the hallway like old gossiping ladies. Chil-won starts to be surprised when Hyo-jong says everyone makes mistakes, but the tone quickly turns sharper again, and he speaks more firmly. He begins explaining the mission of a firefighter. You should never show panic, because the other person is waiting to be saved. He asked Chil-won to imagine if he were the victim in that situation. After all that scolding and tension, Ji-hai offers Chil-won a soda, but he's practically becoming one with the wall. She heard the whole lecture. He finally grabs the can and begins venting. His disappointment in himself is clear. He's really frustrated. She lays it out. He wasn't going to be great from the start. It's about learning from mistakes. A question comes up. Has she ever imagined something like that? Like being trapped in a burning building, waiting for someone to come save her. And the firefighter who shows up is also panicking about the situation. He's really shaken, thinking about the victim who saw his face and lost hope. Chil-won becomes insecure, and Ji-hai sees how much Hyo-jong's words affected him. That's when Young-tae shows up to lighten the mood. The dark-skinned guy jokes about the scolding his friend got. Actually, he uses that fear tactic all the time, and later it's almost funny. He gives his friend some solid support with a pat on the head and some reassuring words. Yang Tae says he has a great idea to help his friend relax and clear his mind. Chil-won already gets excited. Poor guy, so clueless about what's coming. The timer starts with a click. Poor guy is now climbing a super high wall using a rope. His friends down below are cheering him on, watching. Chil-won is struggling to reach the top. Yang Tae asks if the blonde girl isn't going to join. She firmly says there's no need. From the window, the leader seems happy seeing Yang Tae look out for Chil-won. Unlike Hyo-jong, the grumpy one asks for updates on the patient with the broken leg. He says the guy was lucky. The captain almost had to go apologize for Chil-won's reaction, but the older man clearly seems fine with it. He likes the rookie. He asks what Hyo-jong thinks about it. Maybe they were a little quick to judge Chil-won. The grump finally says what he really thinks about the guy, but only after observing him carefully. He thinks the kid might have potential. That's Hyo-jong's opinion. The leader smiles proudly. It's good that he recognizes the other's potential, even if he doesn't like him. It's like a staircase, one step at a time until Chil-won becomes a great firefighter. New day, new apartment. Sunlight starts to shine through the window, gradually lighting up the rooms. There's an adorable drawing on the table. The alarm clock is ringing. It's still pretty early. With a hint of laziness, the man yawns and gets ready to get up. While putting on his pants, you can see the burn scars, something that can happen when you're a firefighter. After getting ready, he goes to say goodbye to his family, first kissing his little son, and then his wife, who wanted a bit more affection. She wishes him a good shift and asks him not to do anything dangerous. At the door, he says goodbye, promising he'll return. Now at the official firefighter base. The guys are in the locker room starting to change. The conversation flows naturally as they get dressed. The marks of the job are visible. Almost everyone there has some kind of burn. Dealing with fires, it's hard not to. The leader looks at the guy next to him and notices there are no marks on his back. His skin is smooth and nice, almost glowing like a jewel. Chil-won notices the stare and asks if everything's alright. The dark-haired man plays it off, saying it's nothing. There's no one in the chairs, no one to fill out the forms, and no one to stop the pen from falling off the desk. Everyone is now running at full speed to an emergency. The leader tells them to guide the rookie through the task. The truck speeds off to reach the scene. The emergency is a fire that broke out on the 3rd floor of a house. Chil-won is a little nervous about it. Now he's going to face a real fire. This isn't training. Yang Tae touches his shoulder and asks if he's nervous. He reassures his friend with a confident smile and a calm demeanor. Chil-won nods, but he's still nervous inside. The firefighters arrive near the fire location, but the street is too narrow and full of cars. They can't get through with the truck. The leader gets irritated. This happens every time. The firefighters go on foot the rest of the way. They jump off the truck and run toward the house. The guy left in the truck says they'll bring the water soon. Someone yells for them to find a way to clear the street of cars, but with no time to waste, the man decides to use the hoses from the truck. When they connect them together, the hose gets long enough to reach the house. He hopes no one gets hurt until the water gets there. The firefighters reach the house and see how much smoke is pouring out the window. Nothing is visible through the window except for smoke, and more smoke. The fire is still in its early stages. They have a few minutes before it gets worse. Quickly, the leader shouts for them to put on their masks because the rescue team is going in. One firefighter is ordered to check if there are still people in the building and evacuate them. The rest must follow the leader to the 3rd floor. Everyone moves quickly to do as instructed. They run up the stairs, announcing the rescue team in case anyone's still inside. Chil-won stops when he reaches the door of the burning apartment. A lot of smoke is leaking through the cracks, filling the hallway. Luckily for them, the door isn't too hot yet. They'll be able to open it. Yang Tae is already pulling out his tool to make way, the mighty crowbar. He prepares himself with all his strength. Then he strikes the door with full force. He hits it directly, managing to open a gap. With one last blow, he opens the door completely so they can enter. Chil-won doesn't hide his admiration. He thinks Yang Tae is truly amazing. Outside, a little farther down the street, Ji-hai watches the building and the dark, dense, charcoal-colored smoke coming out of the windows. It's also her first emergency call as a firefighter. Soe, standing next to her, explains that people usually jump to heaven from smoke inhalation, not the fire itself. And as paramedics, they must do their best to help those who breathe the toxic gas. But they can only do that when the rescue team brings the victims out. Ji-hai is a bit tense while thinking about all of this. She knows that right now, in the middle of all that smoke, Chil-won is in there. Back inside the building, the firefighters are about to enter the apartment. They go in, but the smoke is so thick they can't see a thing. Chil-won feels a tap on his helmet. Yang Tae tells him not to be afraid and to place his hand on his shoulder so he doesn't get lost. A noise is heard nearby, and they become alert. They ask if anyone is there but get no response. From the outside, the house looks smaller. Chil-won doesn't understand why there's so much smoke. With the darkness all around, the space feels frighteningly small and empty. He wonders if there's really anyone in there. Then he freezes, feeling such intense heat it's as if the fire is right in his face. He's never felt something that hot before. He speaks to Yongtae, who had also noticed it. Then they look at the glowing yellow spot that draws their attention, and they see it. There is the source of the fire, the heat, and all the smoke. Yongtae quickly shouts to alert the captain about what they'd discovered. The origin of the fire is in the kitchen. The leader informs the firefighters outside, who were anxiously waiting for news. The man tells them to get out as fast as they can. They have little time. Yongtae is striking a window with his crowbar. The glass shatters with a sharp sound and falls into the street. Their visibility inside the building improves slightly as the smoke begins to escape the room. Chil-won says they need to put out the fire now, but Yongtae objects. Without the proper equipment, they'd only create more smoke in there. Jin Seop, the leader, finds a door inside the house. Inside the room, he finds the victims huddled together, holding each other. Two frightened and alone children, an older girl and a little boy. A brief flashback takes us back to Chil-won's fire training. The instructor is explaining how a fire works. It's not just the flames that are hot. The environment, the smoke, and the burning furniture too. As the heat rises, nearby objects also heat up, and when the material reaches a high and specific temperature, they can suddenly ignite and drastically increase the flames. Chil-won felt a chill in his stomach, but he couldn't look away. The instructor says it only takes about 5 minutes for the flames to surge, scaring him and his classmates. That's why the decision to put out a fire before or after its peak must be made carefully. A hot gas layer is building up at the ceiling. Chil-won is startled to see the leader returning with a child in his arms, and another firefighter with a girl. They report that they're taking the children downstairs. The team is ordered to check the rest of the house. Outside now at the ambulance, the children are alive. Jin Seop is visibly exhausted, removing his helmet. He asks the other firefighter if they managed to get the water to the site. There's no hydrant nearby, and they're still finishing setting up the hose. The man says how frustrating it is not being able to do anything while the fire is right in front of him. The leader tries to stay positive, saying at least they didn't lose any lives. He goes back to check on the kids under Soo-hee's care. The girl inhaled toxic gas, but it doesn't seem to be anything serious. Coughing heavily, the little girl removes the breathing gear from her face, and she speaks about her grandmother. She doesn't know where she is. The two firefighters are shocked by what they've just heard. He talks to the girl, who keeps coughing a lot. Back at the house, the fire is getting worse, and like an explosion, the flames suddenly grow dramatically. Good thing the firefighters had already gotten out, otherwise they'd be trapped inside. The other guy regrets that if the trucks had left earlier, they could have brought the engine closer and extinguished the fire. Jin Seop is getting ready with his gear to go back in. The other one asks what he's doing now that the truck has finally arrived. He says the girl's grandmother might still be inside, and he's ready to go back in. He's going back into the burning house. His colleague even tries to stop him, but words won't hold him back. Even yelling at him, Jin Seop doesn't stop and keeps walking into the building. Even Chil-won calls out to the leader. Today he saw something he'll never forget. It'll be etched in his mind forever, because of the words of a confused child who might have given the wrong information. Without showing a hint of fear, he saw the firefighter, his leader, running back into the fire. At last they managed to get the water flowing and began spraying the building with the hose. Everyone is anxious about the situation, not knowing whether the leader will make it out or not. After several long minutes he comes back, empty-handed. But then he surprises Chil-won. Jin Seop has a big smile on his face, because there was no one in the building. He's sweating a lot and completely exhausted. Someone calls his attention. A teammate starts scolding him. If his sister-in-law finds out, he's the one who's going to get smacked. Laughing, the others agree that he deserves the scolding. A small smile appears on his face. He says it'll be fine as long as no one tells her. His friend keeps being dramatic for a while longer. Farther away, Chil-won asks Jae-hai if she saw the leader running, how he went back into the house to look for the grandma without thinking twice. Chil-won wonders if he'll ever be that brave one day. The blonde girl looks at him and takes a moment to think. She says he can do it. Absolutely. He's surprised. However, she adds a but. With cheeks puffed up like a pouting child, she confesses that she'd rather he weren't so brave. For the first time, the little blonde gets shy, and he makes a weird expression. Kind of hard to describe. After putting out the fire and leading the scene, they're finally back in the truck. Chil-won calls out to Yong-ta. They're both exhausted. He comments that the gear feels kind of strange, different from the one they used at the academy. Back there, he didn't feel the heat as much, but with this one, it was way more intense. Yong-tae explains it's because this gear is lower quality than the academy's. That fact scares poor Chil-won. Every time they ask for better equipment, the answer is there's no money for improvements. But Yong-tae still hopes that things will get better someday. The leader was sitting a few seats ahead. It must have been really hot for Jin Seop when he went back in, Chil-won thought. They're getting changed again in the locker room. Chil-won has a huge burn on his shoulder, A colleague looks shocked. It looks bad, still red. Concerned, the teammate starts looking for some ointment to lend him, but another guy gets there first, offering his own cream to Chil-won. Even Hyo-jong offers his. Another guy shows up. Wow, he has a whole collection of colorful ointments. All of them offer their creams for Chil-won's burn, until the leader arrives and tells him to just give him one. He takes a bit from the jar with his fingertips, and gently starts applying it to the burn, hoping it won't leave a scar. Smiling, he thanks Chil-won for being so brave on his first emergency call. With a flick to the back of his neck, he tells the boy to loosen up a little. The leader wishes everyone a good end to their day. At the station, day turns to night, and after this shift, everyone will go home in the morning. The scene shifts to Jin Seop's family apartment the next day. It's around 7 in the morning, according to the alarm clock. His beautiful wife is waking up. She lets the sunlight in and cooks something to satisfy her hunger. Then she goes back to the mattress to wake the little one who's still sleeping. Their son wakes up, but only because it's time to see his dad coming home. Like magic, Jin Seop appears at the door with a smile. Full of cuteness, the son welcomes his dad. Then his wife does too, with a sweet and loving smile. He's happy to have his family there for him every day after work. In their room, the firefighter is already changing clothes when his wife walks in. He's going to sleep a bit to rest. He was completely worn out. Meanwhile, at Young-tae's house, they're filling their bellies with lots of delicious food from mom. The lady, who's practically adopted Chil-won as her son, tells them to get some rest. The younger one feels truly grateful for the delicious meal. Chil-won also wishes he had someone waiting for him, so he decides to call his parents. Elsewhere, a little cat is excitedly greeting her owner. The blonde gently pets her four-legged daughter. After a good shower to wash off all the smoke stench, Mayo is lying on her lap getting pets again. So sweet. Jae-hai thanks her for always waiting at home. Hard to believe she's the same woman who used to fight all the time at the academy. After a good nap, Young-tae is at the door, ready to head out. Chil-won hasn't finished yawning yet, a bit drowsy as he answers his friend. They went out for a run, and after the first fire dispatch, time seemed to fly. Before he knew it, he was back on another 24-hour shift at the station. He kept learning something new every day, whether outdoors or on the computer. He had to learn how to operate some strange equipment. And of course, he gave it his all in the soccer games they sometimes played at night. Day after day, the routine continued, and before he even realized it, he had already adapted. On a regular day at the base, it was already autumn, the first he'd officially spent as a firefighter. The intimidating Hyo-jong started teasing Chil-won sometimes more playfully, and the leader began trusting him with tasks involving the station's equipment. The team started feeling like a family to him. He had gotten used to almost everything, but no matter how much time passed or how many times he saw it, there was one thing he could never get used to: people going to heaven. Hyo-jong was trying to revive that person with everything he had, but her hand didn't move. There was no sign she was coming back. Still, he kept going while the others watched around him. The girl's mother was completely horrified, calling out for her daughter. Young-tae pulls her out of the room to talk somewhere else, away from the body. The pain the woman felt was indescribable. Her chest burned, and the tears wouldn't stop. After she left with the firefighter, they were watched by their teammate. The leader soon told Hyo-jong he could stop. There was nothing else they could do. The body was covered. It's always so sad when someone chooses to leave this world so young. It seems the young woman had depression, suffered from a lot of work-related stress, and had no one she could trust. When her mother found her, it was already too late. Chil-won was watching Young-tae talk to the woman on the staircase. Jin Seop arrives beside him, saying he never got used to seeing things like that either. For firefighters who work saving lives, it's hard to get used to it. He hopes that next time they'll make it in time. For now, all they can do is pray. The body was taken away by the ambulance team. Chil-won doesn't know how to describe the feeling of watching a life vanish before his eyes. Elsewhere, so he is cheerfully asking the kids who they should call when there's a fire. The children shout out in totally off-key voices, 119. So he congratulates them for knowing exactly who to call. She pretends to be shocked as she draws the children's attention to something. Ji-hai is acting very well, pretending to feel unwell, just a little grumpy as always. Because she suddenly stopped, the kids get confused, so he points for her to lie on the ground. She's also doing a great job continuing the role, teaching the kids about emergency situations. Worthy of an award, Ji-hai dramatically throws herself to the ground in front of the children. After the performance, Ji-hai is praised while receiving a coffee from Soki. She's unsure whether this actually helps the kids during a real fire. Her leader explains how important it is to give children this kind of training. The blonde listens attentively to everything the other says, so he adds with a smile that the kids also leave with a good memory, and may even become firefighters one day. Ji-hai is remembering the moment she collapsed during her cardiac arrest performance, how the tiny humans were terrified, thinking she was actually unwell. She smiles without realizing The kids made her soft, so he caught her in the act, even though she tried to hide the smile. All she wanted that day was to end her shift with that smile. The good feeling of having done something and done it well. But soon the ambulance arrived, and with it came something that ruined that good feeling. In her first autumn since becoming a rescue firefighter, Ji-hai got slapped across the face by a drunk man while checking on him. For the first time in her life, she had been struck by a stranger. So he stepped forward, asking what the man was doing. The man with his head bandaged was clearly drunk out of his mind. Ji-hai is in total shock, and so he is trying to calm the man down. But he's extremely disrespectful, shouting and yanking her hair violently. This sparks a rage that burns inside Ji-hai. Without thinking, letting her anger guide her, she picks up a bottle from the floor. She lifts it high in front of the man. With all her fury, she prepares to throw it at the drunk. Some time later, the rescue team arrives and they are heading back to the base. As Cheol-won and Yong-ta pass nearby, they hear So-hee yelling in anger. She's scolding Ji-hai for acting impulsively in that moment. Sulking, she can only apologize at that point. The bottle didn't hit the man, it hit the floor and opened. So he stopped her in time before something worse happened inside the ambulance. There would have been many complaints, lawsuits, and reports. Everything that could harm them. The three guys watch in disbelief that Ji-hai is actually apologizing. Even though Cheol-won wants to hear more, he's pulled away from the scene. Ji-hai keeps her head down the entire time. She then starts to explain her side and why she did what she did. The man hurt her, used violence against So-hee too, and didn't respect them at all. And even so, they're forced to endure it. Even when they're attacked, Ji-hai begins to tremble. Now tears of rage and indignation fall down her face. They were just there to help. Her leader doesn't know what to say. The two of them remain frozen like that for a while. In the firefighter station's cafeteria, Cheol-won is also upset about something. Yong-tae is explaining the prank calls that happen while eating his food. Cheol-won still doesn't understand why those prank calls happen. Yong-tae has to think about how to answer. He doesn't really know either. Maybe there are so many prank calls because firefighters aren't seen as an authority like the police. Cheol-won still can't believe what he just heard. He says they need to do something about the prank calls. But it's not that simple. They're already overwhelmed with shifts, so finding time for legal action would be hard. They can't even take proper vacations. Handling more problems would be exhausting. That's the reality of being a firefighter nowadays, and Cheol-won still needs to get used to it. For a moment, he starts thinking about Ji-hai, remembering when he saw her earlier. She looked kind of down while getting scolded. Later, the guys are saying their goodbyes, heading home. Cheol-won now has another thought that won't leave his mind. The image of that mother crying the day before after losing her daughter. He wonders if they would have made it in time to save her if they had arrived earlier. The scene shifts, and we see the cutest cat of all welcoming Ji-hai at home. She picks up the cat with her hands. It meows again, happy to have her there. But Ji-hai leans against the wall, slides to the floor, and cries. She needs someone right now. Cheol-won pauses to think for a bit, then decides to go back, telling Yong-tae to head inside. His legs carry him straight to a store. Ever since the academy, he's known one thing. Ji-hai is someone with many layers, like an onion. She's intense and unique. She chose anger to hide her fear of being seen making a mistake. And underneath all the harshness, there was someone vulnerable who didn't want to get hurt. Cheol-won is asking the clerk for a cassette tape displayed in the shop window. The next day, at the fire station, So-hee is walking calmly, complaining about neck pain, must be age. Just as she's about to enter a room, she sees a firefighter from another team doing something inside. Cheol-won tries to play it cool, a bit nervous for getting caught. Later, Ji-hai is standing in front of a small bag on the table, not knowing what's inside. Curious, she asks the captain what's in the package. So-hee, smiling widely, tells her to go to the break area and find out for herself. When Ji-hai opens the bag, she finds a cassette player. She unwraps everything and carefully puts the tape in the player. She plugs in the headphones, and as she starts listening, she recognizes the song. It's the same one Cheol-won sang at their first team dinner, but she doesn't know why she received it. She starts reading a sweet note. Cheol-won says he wanted the song, but since she was grumpy, she deserved to hear it first. Adorable. Ji-hai reads attentively, noticing when he mentions his birthday is on August 20th. A smile appears on her face. It made her day better, and she feels lighter now. Cheol-won has learned, as a firefighter, that sometimes people's hearts cry for help too. And to respond to those calls, all it takes is a genuine and kind action. Ji-hai is once again wearing headphones, listening to the song Cheol-won gave her. She's on the bus. Everyone has their own way of helping others. A warm greeting with a smile, working hard to see loved ones happy, or even a simple gesture of care from a dear friend. Really dear, right Ji-hai? These things come in many forms and definitely make a difference in someone's life. In a new emergency call, the rescue team is dealing with a beehive. Cheol-won feels like this is finally his moment. The moment when his actions will truly help someone. On the job, the bees have already been taken down, and now lie curled up in fetal position on the ground. The homeowner thanks them for the wonderful service the firefighters provided. The bees were so big, she was terrified of them. She thanks them once again with a smile for removing the insects from her house. That made Chil-won feel proud of himself and more confident. The leader asks why he looks like that, and Young-tae explains that he's happy he did a good job. As they get off the truck and head to their break room, they notice something. There are 2 bags and a soda bottle sitting on the rec room table. And to their surprise, the leader Jin Seop's wife appears and announces the food is for the team. She's cheerful and looking great in a stylish outfit. The guys, still dressed like carrots, give a big thank you and show their appreciation for the food. Chil-won hadn't had the chance to meet her before. While the captain introduces her, the others are already heading straight for the food to see what's inside. They're totally amazed. Everything they see is fried chicken and more fried chicken. They dive into the lunch boxes, eating heartily all the food prepared by the leader's wife. But it's not as good as they expected. In fact, there's way too much grease on the chicken. They even pretend it tastes great with the leader watching them. Only the captain is married, and she happened to be nearby and decided to visit him at work. They seem very happy together and truly in love. Chil-won wonders if he'll ever be able to build a family like that in his own life. The guys call the rest of the team to help them finish eating all the chicken. The woman says she has to go, and Ji Seop kindly tells her he'll see her at home later. He leaves her there alone, saying he'll eat when he gets back. Unable to do anything, she sighs, her silky hair swaying with the movement of her head. Feeding this many men the right way isn't so easy. Now she frowns, looking at the space in front of her. Everything there is so old. No matter how many times she comes, nothing ever seems to improve. The pillow is so bad they placed a towel over it just to keep using it. She figures her husband must be laying his head on that pillow too. As she turns to leave, she bumps into another firefighter. The guy is surprised to see her. He gets a little nervous, turns to walk away, but she grabs him, stopping him in place. With a spine-chilling voice, she calls him for a talk. On the other side of the city, in a cozy little house, an old lady who's shrunk quite a bit with age is scolding someone for being late. Young-tae greets his grandmother with a warm smile. The house's door lock broke, and she called the firefighters instead of a locksmith. Young-tae tries to explain that if they open the door their way, it might cause damage. Of course, the tiny old woman doesn't want any damage to her door, so she tells him to do the job more carefully. He can't refuse without trying. After resolving the issue, they head back to the truck chatting. The leader cracks a joke about these non-emergency service calls. Chil-won worries that people who really need help might not get it because of calls like that. He then asks if they could assess the urgency before responding to a call. The leader says maybe, but they shouldn't always think that way. It's important to help those who truly need it, but if they only think like that, they'll lose the sincerity of the situation over time. Until they get to the location, they have to treat every call as an emergency. Otherwise, they might neglect requests and leave someone still in danger or trouble. Chil-won hadn't thought of it that way and now begins to reflect. Suddenly, a voice on the radio announces there's a fire happening nearby. Immediately, the truck changes course and heads to the emergency call location. The leader calls out to the rookie, asking what he just taught him. Always treat any call as an emergency and give it your all. Then they begin to prepare to face the fire once again. The location of the fire looks like a large warehouse. Another firefighter team is already there. Jin Seop introduces his team and asks about the situation. The water they're spraying isn't reaching the source of the fire to fully put it out. The insulation panel is burning and they'll only be able to stop the flames by tearing it off. They grab a piece of equipment that looks like a saw to deal with it. They place a ladder so they can reach up there. Young-tae starts climbing the stairs. They'll have to go up and remove it themselves. Back at the base office, a man is sitting with Do-sun to talk. She asks about his wife, and he says she's doing very well, and asks if she's okay too. Do-sun isn't doing very well, actually. Her son is about to start elementary school. She gives him a deadly glare that feels cold just to look at. Nervous in her presence, he tries to dismiss her from his office, but she stands up and says he promised he would let the leader lead the team when her son started school. He tries to argue back, saying they have too few firefighters for the job. Without Jin Seop there, the entire rescue team would struggle with their work. She brings up another argument, but he keeps countering her. Do-sun is starting to get irritated with the situation. He refuses to give in. The man defends himself again, saying he supported her husband a lot since he became an officer. She reveals that he was the one who convinced Jin Seop to join the rescue team. The officer asks her not to say it like that, especially because if he hadn't supported his friend joining the team, the two would never have met, and Do-sun feels the weight of those words. We return to the moment of the fire. Several firefighters have already climbed onto the roof of the warehouse and are ready to begin. They divide into pairs who will work together during the operation. The saw starts doing its job, cutting through the roof of the building. Young-tae follows the order he was given to carefully turn over the pieces and locate the fire. Chil-won is watching from the ground as they go to the other side to cut the roof. It's insanely high, and on top of that, There's already a lot of water that was sprayed there earlier. If anyone takes a wrong step, they could slip, fall, and kick the bucket. A colleague calls his attention, telling him not to stand still, and hands him a rope. They're going to tie some knots in the rope for safety. So they start preparing to do this nonstop for a while until there are many knots. At that same moment, back at the base, Dosen bumps into someone in the hallway. It's Soe and Ji-hai. While they talk, we find out the guy is her older brother. Soe introduces the blonde to Jin Seop's wife as the new paramedic. Ji-hai greets her formally. Dosen is very friendly, waving his hand with a sweet smile on his face. Right away, she asks if the ladies are going out on a date with some guy. Soe finds it odd. The other woman mentions that her friend always talked about not wanting to get married and suggests someone from the rescue team. Soe sticks out her tongue at her, amused and rejecting the idea immediately without hesitation. Dosen jokes that she can't afford to be picky, and the other indignantly snaps back. She listens as Soe talks about not wanting to constantly be worried about someone. The woman stops walking while the other two continue, the leader still talking. But worried, Ji-hai stops her and calls for her attention. Dosen had crouched down and curled up on the spot. She covered her face with her hands, head lowered. Back at the warehouse, the rope is thrown up to the firefighters on the roof. Hyo-jong informs the captain about the safety rope he prepared for them. The leader thanks the firefighter for the gesture. Everyone starts fastening the rope to their belts so they'll be safe if anything happens. Descending the stairs, Hyo-jong tells Cheol-won to list the materials inside the factory. The material the roof is made of is really dangerous in their current situation. Finally, one of the firefighters finds the source of the flames and informs the leader. They found it faster than expected, so the other team will start spraying water. While the firefighter who located the fire is walking, he steps on a weak spot. The roof gives way, and he falls through, unable to move or hold on to anything. Jin Seop screams his name in panic, deeply worried. A time skip takes us back 6 years, to a coffee shop. Dosen had short hair back then and looked a bit grumpy about something. The woman says something about seeing her mom suffer and hating that situation. Dosen replies that all the guys her friend introduced her to were snobby jerks. Still teasing, the friend insists on knowing what type of man Dosen likes. She decides to think a bit before answering, then starts listing the qualities of the kind of man she'd like to meet. But suddenly, a guy approaches and greets her. He introduces himself as Jin Seop, only younger, less tired, and still very handsome. She's surprised. Back in the present, the crowbar falls to the floor. The knots they tied do their job of securing the hook on his gear. Worried, the leader calls out to the man, approaching to check on him. The firefighter is hanging from the rope, swinging in the air above the roaring fire in the warehouse. Thankfully, he's not hurt and seems fine. The captain breathes a sigh of relief seeing that a member of his team wasn't injured. He quickly shouts for the people on the ground to move the truck closer. For Cheol-won, it's the first time he sees the leader looking so uneasy. 6 years earlier, Dosen is asking if Jin Seop is a paramedic. He says yes, confirming her question. Her words vanish. She simply has nothing more to say. She remembers hearing about the rescue team and how dangerous the job could be. She learned that Jin Seop is a former soldier, but he's not intimidating like some are. Still, she thinks he'll be like all the others, planning to head home without staying long. After eating, they went for a walk and chatted for a bit. Dosen had zero expectations and thought he'd start bragging at any moment. Some talked about all their wealth, others about some uninteresting hobby. In truth, it wasn't that these guys' stories were actually boring, but you could see the lie in their eyes, which never stopped trembling. Still, she noticed that the man beside her, Jin Seop, was different from the others. Even though he avoided looking at her a bit, she had seen it in his eyes, that he clearly is someone who knows how he wants to live his life. After they handled the fire incident and returned to the base, the officer was left speechless when the firefighter who fell explained what happened. It looks like he broke one of his ribs. The doctor said rest alone was enough, so he wouldn't need a cast. With a firm tone, the officer ensures the guy won't exert himself for a while. So he arrives to speak with the leader, Jin Seop. She doesn't raise her eyes and seems a bit tense to talk. Dosen left the base earlier, crying a lot. Jin Seop is now worried. He wants to know what happened to his wife. The women had been catching up, joking around and having fun. But then he said that if she dated a paramedic, she'd be worried for the rest of her life. She sincerely apologizes to the leader. She didn't mean to make her friend cry for real. He's already thinking about how his wife must have felt but tells Sohee it's not her fault. The officer calls him over to say she brought up that subject again. Jin Seop, the firefighter who saves lives but can't save his wife's heart. We jump to the past once again. Dosen and Jin Seop are dating. She never imagined she'd be with a guy who's a firefighter. He has a good build, a sharp nose that points slightly upward. The more she looks, the more she notices beautiful things about him. It makes her shy. A foot is stomping desperately on a vehicle's brake. The driver doesn't know what's going on. His truck is going too fast. Jin Seop becomes alert when he sees what's about to happen and Dosun is in shock. A bad crash occurs and smoke starts pouring from the damaged engine. Oil is leaking from the truck. Jin Seop gets worried. He tells his girlfriend to stay put. He needs to go check on the man and will be right back. He leaps over the fence with a brave and swift jump. He sprints toward the truck smashed into the pole. The man inside is injured, his face covered in what looks like ketchup, and he's unconscious. Jin Seop decides to take off his jacket to break the glass without hurting his arm. Dosun was watching from afar as he pulled the man out of the truck, all of his determination to save someone he didn't even know. Right then, she clearly understood the kind of man he was, and it only made her love him even more. She was sure she wanted to be that man's wife. Back at the base, Ji-hai was explaining to Cheol-won what had happened. The man was already worried about the leader's wife. They were eavesdropping by the door to the leader's office, watching him inside. Jin Seop was looking at something on the computer without seeming truly focused. The officer touches his shoulder and asks if he wants to take the rest of the day off. The leader refuses, saying his place right now is at the fire station. Now we understand why she went to the officer. Her husband is so stubborn. The officer only tells him not to regret this choice later. The scene shifts to a very special day, the wedding of Dosun and Jin Seop. She loved him more than anyone else ever could, and they promised to love each other until their bones turned to dust. After that, they had a precious baby, their beloved son, but because she loved him so much, she had to handle a lot on her own. In another room, Yong-tae is fiddling with some equipment and chatting with Cheol-won and Ji-hai. He explains that when the leader's son was born, he was on duty, and he always talks about it when he's drunk. A man working shifts like theirs can't be a good husband, he says. Cheol-won had never stopped to think that his job could really affect a relationship. Ji-hai gets an idea. She suggests recruiting more people to improve things around there. Yong-tae explains that it's complicated because the laws and politics always get in the way. They even request more recruitment, but it's too expensive, so it doesn't get approved. His optimism is surprising. He still hopes they can work under better conditions. Even Cheol-won finds it a bit too much sometimes. Yong-tae asks Ji-hai why she's there anyway. She says she was just passing by. She says it would be great if they could recruit more people. That way, Dosun would feel better. Cheol-won is worried about the leader. His wife also seemed a bit unwell. Ji-hai remains optimistic, saying she believes things will work out for them. Earlier that day, when she saw Dosun crying and then getting back up, she discovered something about the woman. Dosun truly cares about her husband, the leader Jin Seop. At the end of the day, the guys start changing in the locker room and saying their goodbyes. Jin Seop is deep in thought, reflecting on everything that happened that day. At home, he is greeted by his adorable son calling for him. The man kneels down and hugs the little one, happy to be welcomed like that. His wife also greets him and calls him in for breakfast. Jin Seop compliments her cooking. She says she made it the way her mother-in-law taught her. Then he calls his wife, and she thinks he wants more food and offers him some. But Jin Seop starts talking about how hard it must be for her to take care of everything. They're getting older and their son is growing up fast, yet she never complains about anything. Sincerely, he apologizes for not being a better husband to Dosun. Trying to hold back tears, she begins to speak. Back when they were dating, she thought he was so admirable. His direction in life seemed so clear. The way he jumped in that day to save a man was so confident and brave. It was so impressive that she fell deeply in love with Jin Seop. But now that she's a mother, she feels a bit selfish. Every time she hears news about firefighters becoming angels, she feels like it could be about him. And when she hears a siren, she can't sleep until he comes back safely from his shift. She used to admire his sense of duty to save others, but now she feels so pathetic. Could her husband be any less impressive now? She's so afraid of losing him. The dishes being washed are left in the sink, along with the gloves. Jin Seop stands up and goes to hug his wife. They spend a moment in each other's arms, calming down from everything they went through that day. On the next shift, most of the guys are gathered, looking at something in awe. The officer asks why everyone is gathered around Jin Seop when they call him over too. Even the officer is surprised when he sees it with his own eyes. Leader Jin Seop is holding a cell phone in his left hand. He explains that his wife wants to talk to him more often, so they decided to talk over the phone. Someone asks how much it cost, and the leader says 65,000 won. All their emergency savings went into that, but Dosun, who used to be so anxious, is now extremely happy to be able to hear his voice anytime, anywhere. So he walks out, dialing on the phone. It's time to call his wife. Yong-tae asks if Cheol-won also saw what he saw. He tells the younger one to make sure he falls in love someday because it's such a beautiful thing. Love is the biggest concern in this firefighter job, but also the greatest support. Dosun is happy now, sitting at the table, receiving her husband's call. Later that day, Yong-tae went to talk to Jin Seop. The focused, bespectacled guy doesn't even look up when he answers. Yong-tae asks what the leader is doing over the weekend. He replies that he'll be with his family, just as expected. Yong-tae tries asking another colleague what he's doing, but he brushes him off too. The dark-haired guy is frustrated, but tries again. He goes to yet another colleague who also can't hang out because he's seeing his girlfriend. His frustration builds. He bites his lip and tenses up, holding it in. The next day is Saturday, but Young Tae looks pretty irritated. He just wanted to have some fun with the guys, but it seems like everyone has a girlfriend except for him and Hyo-jong. Chil-won was a bit confused by what the guy said. He doesn't have a girlfriend either. Young Tae calls him an idiot, and Ji-hae overhears while pretending she's not listening. She shifts the conversation back to Hyo-jong, bringing up the fact that he doesn't have a girlfriend. Young Tae imitates Hyo-jong saying he doesn't want a relationship right now. Totally dramatic. Chil-won tells them to go eat that meat Young Tae likes, and he gets super excited. He rushes ahead of the others, but ends up bumping into someone on the street. Young Tae freezes when he realizes who he just bumped into. No way, holding hands with a girl. It's him. It's Hyo-jong, the same guy who said he wasn't interested in relationships right now. Just like Chief Jin Seup, he's also a former Special Forces member. He has a natural talent for games and is considered the most handsome member of the firefighter team. And he still manages to get everything he wants without any effort. Young Tae is completely outraged that Hyo-jong said that just so his teammate wouldn't feel down. He starts cursing the guy right there in the street, and Hyo-jong becomes more uncomfortable by the second. After choosing a restaurant, the girlfriend and the others introduce themselves. She confesses that they're the first one she's met. Hyo-jong managed to hide her from his colleagues. She says she feels special because Hyo-jong told her he wasn't interested in anyone. He simply tells her not to say anything unnecessary, calling her affectionately. Young Tae bursts out laughing when he hears that, and Ji-hae compliments the couple, saying they look beautiful together. The handsome guy slams the table, threatening to send his friends to heaven if they spread the word about him. Young Tae looks serious, but in his head, he was already plotting something. The next day, Hyo-jong is running down the hallway like a hunter chasing prey. Young Tae is running away from him, already drawing attention from others. He runs into a room yelling that Hyo-jong is dating an incredibly beautiful woman. Hyo-jong jumped on his neck, but Young Tae isn't afraid of what the other wants to do. The officer, who was watching with a smirk, says there's a firefighter hanging from the ladder. Ji-hae, who was passing by, didn't understand what he meant, so he explains that it's a tradition among the men at the fire station. When a firefighter gets married, they decorate the truck ladder and spray him with water. Ji-hae says it's kind of ridiculous, and so he also doesn't know why they do it. But she adds that when a firefighter starts a family, everyone there celebrates together, because the strength to endure this tough life comes from the people around them. Ji-hae smiled a bit, no longer finding the tradition so ridiculous. Hyo-jong was still clinging to Young Tae when they heard the emergency signal. Everyone quickly rushed to the fire truck. The voice on the radio describes the fire and its location. It sounds like there are people trapped inside. The firefighters are putting on their gear fast. Jin Seup gives the order for them to get ready to run. Chil-won remembers that this particular place has very narrow streets. When they arrive, there's already a lot of smoke coming out of the house windows. Apparently, they arrived before the other team. The leader asks about the other truck, and one team member says it's coming later with the officer. The wind is blowing strong today. Jin Seup already knows the fire will spread quickly. With everyone geared up, he gives the order to begin the search, and they all run in. The officer arrived shortly after on the other truck. The rescue team had already entered the house. He tells another firefighter to grab the hose and bring it quickly, and to call the gas company and shut off the gas as soon as possible. Inside, it's very dark. They split into teams of 2, with Young Tae going in with the leader. Chil-won tells his bro to be careful. He hears him and nods. They start moving through the thick smoke, exploring the area in search of victims. One of the firefighter pairs finds a door. Dosun wakes up groggy and alert from the sound of the fire truck siren passing by. She gets up from the couch where she had been sleeping. She walks to the glass door in the living room to look outside. She recognizes the siren from Jin Seup's firefighter team. Back at the burning house, Young Tae and the leader are calling out for victims inside the room. Someone shouts back, and they hear the call. The person is on the floor, calling for them. Young Tae yells to the others that they found someone, and someone else shouts back that there are more people on the 3rd floor. The other firefighters also help those victims and are already coming out with them. One pair comes out of the building with 2 women and heads straight to the ambulance. Ji-hae is ready for them to take over care from that point on. The other firefighter team has started spraying water with the hoses. The officer asks how things are going, and the guy responds that it's not too bad, even with the wind. Ji-hae calls out to Chil-won before he heads back in, and he immediately turns around. She asks him to be careful and not overdo it, a little nervously. He says the rescue team is there, so she doesn't need to worry. Ji-hae watches as he runs back in, clearly concerned about Chil-won. So he calls her back to tend to the people because she was just standing there doing nothing. Inside the house, the fire is consuming everything quickly. Yang Tae had a hammer that he was using to clear the way. At that moment, he's swinging it at something to break through. They find another victim on the second floor, lying on the ground. Jin Seup approaches her and tries to speak, but the woman doesn't respond. She has inhaled too much smoke, and her consciousness is already fading. Outside, multiple hoses are spraying water from all sides, trying to put out the flames. The officer tells Jin Seup to hurry because the wind is blowing even stronger now. The man replies that another firefighter is already leaving the house with the victim, and since it doesn't seem like anyone else is inside, he tells the team to evacuate. But then he stops and sees a photograph, a woman with a child. He asks them to check outside if the little girl has already exited the house. The officer questions it. Jin Seup says he found a photo of the girl. The officer immediately asks Sohee if the girl is among the victims. She replies that no children have come out of the house. Jin Seup receives the message through the communication device, still surrounded by flames. Another firefighter rushes to the officer with urgent news about the gas company. He says he requested the gas be shut off, but the house might use individual gas tanks. Now we see 2 gas canisters in the middle of the fire. Jin Seup receives an order to evacuate immediately and asks what happened. The other man yells that the house has its own gas supply and it could explode. The leader hears his friend urging him to stop searching and leave. He asks everyone still there if they heard what the officer just said. A gas explosion is extremely dangerous. Chil Wong is terrified by the thought. The leader turns his back and orders the team to leave quickly. One of them stops and asks why he's heading in that direction. He says he's going to look for the child one last time before coming down to exit. Even with the possibility of an explosion, Jin Seup is still going to try one more time to find someone. The leader tells the others to go down the stairs first. Yang Tae says he's staying to help search for the child. The rescue team starts leaving the house while the other firefighters keep spraying water. They take off their helmets to breathe better. They're exhausted and gasping. The officer asks where the rest of the firefighting team is, and Ki is asked to prepare a ladder truck just in case. Jin Seup and Yang Ta might not be able to make it down to the first floor. Outside, the fire is growing rapidly and becoming more terrifying. Hyul Wong is very worried about his leader and friend. The firefighters continue spraying water non-stop on the house. Even so, it seems like too little compared to the amount of fire now. The flames aren't going out because the wind is too strong, and Ki tells Jin Seup once again to get out. The gas could explode at any moment. He hears the leader's voice saying that's exactly why he needs to find the victim. Jin Seup is so stubborn. The officer is worried there might not even be anyone there. Inside, they're still focused on the mission. Jin Seup points out a closed door to Yang Ta. It's the only place in the house they haven't checked. We get a flashback to Yang Tae's first day at the station. He started by shouting too. The leader covered his ears, overwhelmed by the loud noise. He liked the guy's energy but told him he didn't have to be that loud. Then welcomed Yang Tae as an official member of the rescue team. The rescue team was still very small. The station hadn't had one for long. Time really flies, doesn't it? Now we see the end of a past emergency call. Yang Tae is sweating heavily and still breathing hard. Leader Jin Seup congratulates him for doing a good job. He asks if it was the first time he saved someone from a fire. Yang Tae confirms. Then the leader simply asks what it felt like. Yang Tae didn't quite understand the question. Jin Seup clarifies. What was it like to save someone with your own hands? But Yang Tae couldn't express it. He's not good at that. Still, he knows it was deep and something that will stay with him forever. The leader jokes that he's getting dramatic. Most people just say it's their job to save others. Since they're firefighters, they can call it a firefighter's sense of duty. Yang Tae repeats those words to himself, understanding their meaning. Now in the present, he strikes the door with his axe. He breaks the doorknob so they can get inside. They open the door and see the child inside the bathtub in the bathroom. Jin Seup reports to the officer that they found the victim, and Chil Wong is relieved. Poor guy. The girl has a towel on her head and looks very frightened as she stares at them. Yang Tae approaches with the mask to put it on her. Again, another firefighter calls the officer, who says the ladder truck is already arriving. But there's a problem. The parked cars are blocking the truck from passing. In-ki gets irritated. They almost never need it, and just when they do, this happens. He gives the order to call the car owners and tell them to move their vehicles. Hyul Wong is anxiously waiting for the 2 firefighters to come out of the burning house. Hyo Jong tells him to take off his gear and go help. They head toward the cars on the street. Ji Hai is telling herself that everything will be okay with Hyul Wong. The child already has the mask on, and Yang Tae picks her up, wrapped, to get them out. If they're fast, they'll make it to the first floor. The fire is even closer to the gas cylinders now, causing cracks. And when they least expect it, a spark becomes a massive fire explosion. The blast pushes both of them back slightly with the impact. Outside, everyone was startled by the incident. Plate falls to the ground and shatters after someone jumps at the noise. Dosen looks out the window in worry, able to see the fire and smoke from afar. The officer yells into the walkie-talkie, asking for news from Jin Seup. desperately pleading for his friend to respond. Jin Seup asks why he's making such a fuss. They're fine. The explosion mostly hit the hallway, so they survived. If they had been in the hallway just a bit earlier, they wouldn't have made it. But they can't go down the stairs. They're heading to the roof. In-ki immediately orders the ladder truck to move to that area. Even with the cars in the way, he simply tells them to drive over them. The firefighter in the truck gets the message and starts accelerating. The truck pushes forward, dragging the cars aside as it goes. In-ki tells Yang-tae and Jin Seup to hang on just a bit longer. They need to hold on. On the fire truck's bench, Jin Seup's phone wouldn't stop ringing. Dosun already had tears in her eyes, worried that her husband wasn't answering. She's afraid something bad has happened and that he won't come home that day. Jin Seup is checking to see if Yang-tae and the child were hurt at any point. Thankfully, both of them are safe. On the comms device, the officer says the building is at risk of collapsing and tells them to get to the roof quickly. They're going to move the truck to pick them up. Jin Seup grabs Yang-tae's axe, ready to clear a path to get there faster. They're moving, and the fire is much stronger now. Some pieces are already falling off the walls. They could collapse at any moment. A piece of concrete falls on top of Yang-tae, scaring the little girl in his arms. The leader speaks to her, saying everything is okay and that they're getting out of there. They keep moving through the house. But then, the door to the rooftop is locked with a chain and padlock. Jin Seup tells Yang-tae to stand back so he can break it. Even exhausted and surrounded by heat, Jin Seup gathers all his strength in his arms. In another flashback, we see Yang-tae asking the leader if he's never afraid of having to run into the fire, how he manages to charge in without hesitation. Jin Seup admits that he's afraid of the fire too. Back to the present. In truth, he also trembles when he can't even see his own feet because of the smoke. But if he lets the fire win, the people who need help won't survive. So instead of overthinking it, he simply tells himself he can do it and pushes forward. Because that's what he's meant to do in this world. Jin Seup manages to pull down the stairs, and now they're climbing up. Yang-tae is right behind with the victim in his arms. Another day, we see the two of them having a conversation about a talk the leader had with an old man. Jin Seup says he learned a lot from him, inspiring Yang-tae to take it seriously too. The younger one promises he'll do his best to become a firefighter like that man. But Jin Seup says he doesn't have to do that, because when he looks at him, he already sees the old man, so he's already doing more than enough. Yang-tae is already the best firefighter. The stairs are at their limit, being corroded by the flames. Both firefighters are nervous, and then the stairs give out and break, right where Yang-tae is standing. He yells to the leader, throwing the child to him before it's too late. Jin Seup stretches his arms out toward the child. The girl is caught by Jin Seup, but when he looks ahead, he doesn't see Yang-tae, and his place now is a hole in the floor, and he yells for him. Yang-tae managed to grab a piece of the ladder with one hand and is holding on with just one arm. Jin Seup tells him to hang on a bit longer. They'll be back quickly to get him. He tells the leader to go and that he'll climb back up by himself. Two firefighters are already on the ladder waiting outside. Jin Seup leaves the attic and runs toward them with the girl. He hands over the child and desperately asks his partner for the rope. He can't even explain what it's for. He just needs that rope now. Yang-tae is still hanging on. The entire floor beneath him has already collapsed. His hand is trembling badly. He can't keep strength in his arms anymore. Maybe he should have done more push-ups with Chil-won. During a morning run, Chil-won says thank you to Yang-tae. He asks why all of a sudden. His friend says it's for everything. For the morning runs, for being there when he needed someone, for always supporting him with a smile when Chil-won didn't know how to move forward. Chil-won truly feels happy to have become a firefighter like Yang-tae. A smile appears on the dark-haired guy's face. He jokes that now Chil-won owes him gratitude for life. The hand that was holding onto the ladder is no longer there. That weekend when Yang-tae went out with Chil-won and Ji-hai, he seems a little disappointed when he asks if she and his friend are dating. Ji-hai tells him to keep his voice down or the other might hear. He asked if they had ever talked about their feelings, and Ji-hai says she once asked what they were, and the idiot, slow as ever, said they were colleagues from Firefighter Academy. He really thinks they're just Academy colleagues. Yang-tae says he's never seen Chil-won like that before. He's so clueless. How did Ji-hai even end up liking him? The little blonde is sweet when she says he has a kind heart. She asks a favor from her bro, Yang-tae. After she saw the rescue team getting hurt, she started worrying something might happen to him. So she asks him to keep an eye on Chil-won during calls. Of course, Yang-tae would do that for her. The day is already breaking, smoke is blending with the wind and fading away. Soi and In-ki aren't liking what they see. Ji-hai is in shock at what she sees with her own eyes. Chil-won calls out for Yang-tae but gets no response. He asks again why he's not answering. The fire has already been extinguished, but the body on the ground doesn't react. Chil-won doesn't understand why he's lying down. He tells his friend to get up. Hyo-jong has to hold back Chil-won, who now desperately cries out for his friend. Someone yells to cover the lifeless body, and they do so. Chil-won is completely desperate to get to him, but another firefighter restrains him. 2 paramedics are already taking Yang Tae's covered body elsewhere. Ji-hai is holding back tears as she sees the body pass by. Jin Seup is also in shock. Chil-won keeps screaming and crying, calling out for his bro Yang Ta. It's another day. The sky is blue with a few white clouds. The firefighters are wearing dress uniforms, carrying a photo of Yang Ta. All of them have their heads bowed, standing tall. The atmosphere filled with sadness. Someone is also carrying a folded South Korean flag. A firefighter is crying while beside him. Hyo-jong asks where Chil-won went. The one crying says to give him some time. Chil-won said he's not ready yet. Yang Tae was someone very special to him. The shock was too great. Hyo-jong bites his lip. Chil-won thinks he's the only one in pain. Everyone was caught off guard by this. He should at least say goodbye properly. Jin Seup also keeps his head down, a bit farther away from them. The food is warm, served at the table. Chil-won's mother is asking if he's not hungry after the trip. She wants to know why he's not eating. Chil-won apologizes to his mom. He starts speaking with tears in his eyes, saying he should have stopped Yang Tae from going back that day. To him, his bro could overcome anything, so he thought he'd be fine. So stupid. He didn't have any kind of superpower. Chil-won can't hold back his tears. He apologizes again to his mother. She just gets up and hugs him, saying he doesn't need to apologize, because whenever he's hungry or thinking about Yang Tae, he's always welcome. 1 month later, at a company event, a man is speaking into a microphone about yet another firefighter who lost his life in the line of duty. And yet, part of the fire department's budget was spent on the fireworks festival. The situation is truly terrible. While firefighters work hard out in the field. That's why the man at the microphone took the lead to improve working conditions for firefighters. Everyone applauds the speech. A guy in the corner says that if there's nothing more to say, they should take a picture. But before that, a firefighter in the audience raises his hand. Jin Seup introduces himself as the leader of the rescue team and says the improvements the man mentioned are great. But to be honest, they've heard that same thing too many times to still have hope. He raises something in his hand. It's one of the gloves they use, only slightly better than regular labor gloves. The team wears clothing that resembles a raincoat, and that's how they face the flames. The congressman is confused. He was told the firefighters use high-quality equipment. The guy interrupts him, saying that's something that still hasn't happened due to the low budget. Jin Seup cuts in to say that the firefighter who died was from his team. That day, the fire truck couldn't arrive on time because of illegally parked cars. If the truck had gotten through and put out the fire sooner, things might have turned out differently. If only a law had been created, at least for illegally parked vehicles in fire zones. Jin Seup suggests a law to allow them to get past those vehicles without trouble. Everyone goes silent for a moment waiting. The congressman says he gives his word, no matter how long it takes. He will get that law passed for the team and for a safer future for the people.
Our video ends here. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, bye bye.